everybody. Welcome to the Bellevue City Council meeting for, what's the date? May 28th, 2024. City Clerk, would you please do the roll call?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Malakutian. Councilmember Hamilton.
Here.
Councilmember Lee.
Here.
Councilmember Neuenhouse.
Here.
Councilmember Stokes.
Here.
And Councilmember Zahn.
Here.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zahn, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a lot to go over, a lot of fun things to go over, actually. We have 3 proclamations, we have an award presentation, but we also have a star in the audience today. We have Mr. Rex Walker, who portrayed young Malcolm in the Seattle Opera's X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X, and Councilmember Zahn was so excited to see you in this and to know that you were a Bellevue resident that she really wanted to talk about that tonight. So I'm going to hand it over to Councilmember Zahn.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. You know, I was so excited to see you perform Rex because to me, when I learned that one of our very own talents was in the X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X at the Seattle Opera, you know, I wanted to learn more about it. And when I attended the show, it was phenomenal. I know you were in 3 different productions of that. And the part that was even more meaningful is what I came to learn is that both young Malcolms were from our area. So Rex Walker from Bellevue, and then Jace Johnson from Federal Way, which is where I went to school for middle school and high school. So got to talk with both of you a little bit about your experiences. And what I came to learn is that this is actually the first full-length opera of the life of Malcolm X, and it was also the first opera by a Black composer at the Seattle Opera. So even more meaningful that you were in a production for the first time at the Seattle Opera to learn about the life of Malcolm X. And in addition to that, I know that you are a local talent from Puesta del Sol and Tillicum Middle School. And then also that at one time you were at Backstage Dance, which is also in Bellevue. And so I just think that it was really special to know that one of our talent was on the Seattle Opera stage. And so I wanted to recognize your efforts and from the City Council.
Thank you. Rex, we're so happy to have you and your family here today. Would you like to come talk about your experience a little bit?
My name is Rex Walker. I'm 12 years old, and I'm a part of the ISA program, which stands for International Spanish Academy, and I'm a resident of Bellevue. I'm in 7th grade at Tillicum Middle School, and I live in Somerset. I study choir with my amazing teacher, Julia Myring, who in March took our choir to New York to compete at the historic Riverside Church and to explore the city and its arts. I also dance at Allegro Performing Arts Academy, located in Kent, Washington. I first heard about the audition for X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X through a friend who knew the description of the character of young Malcolm Little fit me perfectly. I later suggested the audition call to my friend Jace, and we both auditioned for the role and were selected for it. The most exciting parts about being in the opera was getting to go down to the costume and makeup area for my fittings, sitting on the moving Audubon stage, and also meeting all the amazing opera performers and staff members. The first time I saw X was in New York City at the Metropolitan Opera during Thanksgiving break while I was visiting my grandparents. But little did I know that the performers on stage at the Met were going to be joining me on the Seattle Opera stage. Through the work of the Pulitzer Prize-winning composer Anthony Davis, I've learned so much about Malcolm X, his troubled childhood, his tragic struggles throughout his life, and how he continuously tried to make sense of this world. Always questioning the systems, religions, and leaders around him. Except for his autobiography, Malcolm X left no published writings. However, his words continue to make us think, inspire us, and give us hope for the future. I'm thankful to have been a part of such a historical event, the first production performed on Seattle Opera stage in its 61-year history, composed and written by Black artists. I'm also excited to continue my singing and acting career, and I'm going to be playing as one of the characters in the youth chorus in Pagliacci, which is from August 3rd to 17th. I'm very honored to be recognized today by Bellevue City Council and Mayor Lynn Robinson. I want to give a special thanks to Councilmember Zahn for coming to see my performance at Seattle Opera in March. I hope that Bellevue City Council will continue prioritizing funding and the supporting of young people in the performing arts. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you so much. When we're done with the other 4 items, I would love to have you and your family come up and take a picture with us, okay? So stick around. Thank you. Okay, all right, now comes even more of a brag fest. We just bragged about one of our Bellevue own, but now we get to brag about the whole city. And we always read the 425 magazine when they come out with the best of 425 with intenseness, because we're wondering if Bellevue won. And we did. And I'm so glad. It's the second time in a row, which is huge. I think we've won it 3 times in 4 years. And so it's a big deal to win it 2 times in a row. And, you know, just to brag a little bit about Bellevue, we're the home to, you can sit down, Scott, and I'll just continue. We're home to 97 corporate headquarters, international headquarters, and to name a few, T-Mobile, PACCAR, Pokemon, Symetra Life Insurance, and we're also home to significant retail and dining and lodging options. We've been named a lot of great things about nationally and locally, but the 425 magazine, Best of 425, is a big deal because it's voted by the people. So a little bit about what people really appreciate about Bellevue is we have 2,700 acres of park and open spaces. We have 90-plus miles of trails. We have 46 playgrounds, 7 beach parks, and 5 community centers. So tonight, to present the award, we have Scott Payne, who is the associate publisher of 425 magazine. And so come on up, Scott. Thank you. You can, we'll come down and get the award from you if you just want to talk first.
Okay. Well, for those of you that don't know, we've been publishing 425 magazine for 18 years. And it was 15 years ago that the idea of creating what we now call the Best of 425 came to us. This is a multi-month opportunity for our readers to go to our website and vote in over 100 different categories, one of which is the best city. And so, as Mayor Robinson mentioned several times now, the city of Bellevue has won this category. So, officially, for the year 2024, the city of Bellevue has again been voted as the best city by the readers of 425 magazine.
Thank you. So, thank you. I so appreciate this, we all do, and I really wanted us to all have the opportunity to share and bask in the glory of this. We're going to do pictures after the next 3 items, so if you wouldn't mind staying in the room, we will do the next 3 items and then come up and accept the award from you. Thank you. Okay, next we have 3 proclamations. The first one is Jewish American Heritage Month, which will be read by Councilmember Neuenhuis and accepted by Regina Friedland. Then we have Mental Health Awareness Month, read by Councilmember Stokes and read by Michael Bayan. I hope I'm saying that right, the Executive Director of the Asian Counseling and Referral Services. And lastly, we will have Men's Health Week proclamation read by Councilmember Lee. And I don't know that we have anyone picking that one up, so we'll do it as a group. So let's start with our Jewish American Heritage Month proclamation with Councilmember Neuenhuis.
Thank you, Mayor. It's an honor to read the proclamation this evening. Whereas Bellevue is one of the most diverse cities in Washington with a strong Jewish community that serves an important part of the city's fabric, including members of the Temple B'nai Torah and the Temple Tehush Sinai in Bellevue, contributing in many ways to the strength and resilience of our community.
And whereas throughout our history, Jewish people have helped advance society through science, politics, journalism, arts and entertainment, literature, commerce, human rights, and more. And whereas this community of neighbors, of friends, colleagues, and family members has offered much in the way of innovation and creativity and lasting contributions to our common knowledge, but has also historically been subject to discrimination, hatred, and violence that we continue to struggle with today. And whereas anti-Semitism impacts millions of Jews and people of all backgrounds around the globe, the Anti-Defamation League tracks anti-Semitic incidents and in 2023 tabulated 8,873 anti-Semitic incidents across the United States. That represents a 140% increase from the number of incidents recorded in 2022 and is the highest number on record since they began tracking the anti-Semitic incidences back in 1979. And whereas Bellevue strongly stands against hate, bias, or violence based on race, nationality, gender, disability, or religion, and encourages victims or witnesses of anti-Semitism or hate in Bellevue to report it to the Bellevue Police. And whereas as supporters of our Jewish community, the City Council proclaimed in 2022 our condemnation of anti-Semitism and remains committed to our vision of welcoming the world and recognizing our diversity as a key strength. And whereas we are pleased to recognize and celebrate the resilience, faith, and heritage of this community, whose values, cultures, and contributions have shaped our culture through the years and will continue to do so in the future. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Lynn Robinson, Mayor of the City of Bellevue, Washington, and on behalf of its City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Jewish American Heritage Month in Bellevue and encourage all organizations and members of the community to learn more about the heritage and contributions of our Jewish community and work together to end hate and end anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Sorry, my microphone is off. Thank you. Let's go ahead and speak to us if you'd like.
American Jewish Committee, AJC, extends its gratitude to the City of Bellevue, Washington, the City Council, on this meaningful and important proclamation in honor of Jewish American Heritage Month. At this time of surging acts of anti-Semitism, it's especially fitting to recognize and celebrate the many impactful contributions Jews have made in this country since the first group of Jews arrived in New Amsterdam in 1654. For the past 370 years, Jewish Americans have positively contributed to this country as involved as patriotic citizens, grateful for the safe haven that America provided to many Jews escaping persecution, discrimination, and genocide. The freedom to practice Judaism and for its plentiful opportunities. Jewish Americans have and continue to serve in the military as public officials, diplomats, Nobel Prize winners, Supreme Court justices, and at the helm of universities and corporations, advancing medicine and science, entertainment, performing, and visual arts, and more. And I know this is a very tough time right now, and we are so grateful that I shouldn't even say this, but the bold step in recognizing this month, and we have much appreciation and gratitude. Thank you all.
Thank you. We'd like to do a picture after the next few proclamations. Please stick around. Okay, next we have Mental Health Awareness Month, read by Councilmember Stokes.
Whereas Mental Health Awareness Month has been observed since 1949 to raise awareness of mental health conditions and the importance of mental health as an essential part of overall health, and whereas 1 in 5 adults experiences a mental health issue in any given year, and 1 in 17 adults lives with chronic mental illness such as major depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia, and whereas people with severe mental illnesses are more than 10 times more likely to be victims of violent crime than the general population, This is not good. All right. People with severe mental illnesses are more than 10 times more likely to be victims of violent crime than the general population, and long delays, sometimes decades, often occur between the period when symptoms first appear and when individuals get help, making early identification and treatment critical in the successful management of mental health conditions. And through public education, further awareness, and reduction of stigma associated with mental health illnesses, the lives of individuals and families impacted by mental health conditions can be greatly improved. And whereas local service providers respond to the needs of people with mental health conditions in Bellevue by working to transform the quality of life for people vulnerable to mental illness throughout a broad spectrum of care. And whereas there is a significant disparity between different racial and ethnic groups in their ability to access linguistically and culturally appropriate mental health services, meaning more services are needed to address this in equitable access. And whereas the Bellevue City Council approved investments for behavioral health resources and a community crisis assistance team that helps community members in crisis, diverting them from jails or hospitals and providing appropriate follow-up mental health care and case management afterwards. Now, therefore, I, John Stokes, on behalf of Lynn Robinson, Mayor of the City of Bellevue, Washington, and on behalf of its City Council, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Bellevue, and encourage all members of the community, along with businesses, schools, and community organizations, to make a pledge to increase awareness and understanding of mental illnesses, support mental health care, eliminate stigmas, and recognize the need for appropriate and accessible services for all. And my apologies for my phone.
Michael, would you like to come speak to us, and then we'll do a picture later. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening. Michael Bion with Asian Counseling and Referral Service, and I want to first and foremost thank the City Council members here in the City of Bellevue for this proclamation, and thank you, Councilmember Stokes, for reading the proclamation. ACRS was founded in 1974 at a time when our communities were inappropriately being institutionalized or misdiagnosed, and as a result of that, we've had greater stresses in our communities as it relates to mental health. Fast forward in 50 years, we've made a lot of great progress, not only our institution, but other sister organizations across our community here, including in the City of Bellevue. And this proclamation I accept on behalf of them, as well as thousands of folks who have been helped by behavioral health services, as well as treatment services, and are also on the road to recovery. So on behalf of our organization, our board of directors, volunteers, staff, as well as our clients, and the rest of our sister organizations who are doing this incredible work here in the City of Bellevue, thank you so much for this proclamation.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Men's Mental Health Week proclamation read by Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas Men's Health Month is part of an ongoing international effort to educate men, boys, and their families about receiving regular disease prevention screenings and living healthier lifestyles. And whereas nationwide, life expectancy for men averages 5 years fewer than that of women, with men experiencing higher rates of health problems such as diabetes, obesity, cancer, heart disease, and premature mortality. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic had a devastating impact on men's health in the United States, dropping men's life expectancy by 2 years. And whereas Men's Health Month is a time for the public to recognize the mental and physical health needs of men and boys, while encouraging fathers to be role models for their children through preventive health screenings, health living, and seeking needed help. And whereas the growing epidemic of suicide and substance abuse requires special effort to raise awareness of unrecognized and undiagnosed depressions and mental stress in boys and men. And whereas The centerpiece of Men's Health Month is National Men's Health Week, a special awareness period passed by Congress and signed into law by President Bill Clinton on May 31st, 1994. Now, therefore, I, Conrad Lee, on behalf of Lynn Robinson, Mayor of the City of Bellevue, Washington, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim June 10th through 16th, 2024, as Men's Health Week in Bellevue, and urge community members to encourage the men and boys in your lives to practice healthy habits and to seek regular medical advice and early treatment for disease and injury. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. Okay, great. Let's start with Rex and his family. We'll meet you right here. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. City Clerk, do we have anybody signed up for oral communications?
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, there are 2 pre-registered speakers. So before I start calling names, I'll go over a few of the rules for tonight's oral communications. So this is for a period of no more than 30 minutes, and all topics must relate to the City of Bellevue government. People speaking to items on tonight's agenda will be called first, and then if time remains, people speaking to items not on tonight's agenda will be called. The presiding officer in both of those categories has the authority to prioritize those that have not spoken to council within the last 60 days, or those who will speak on items that will come in front of council within the next 60 days. Speakers are each allowed up to 3 minutes to speak, and only 3 speakers will be allowed to speak to any one side of a particular topic. With that, I will call our first speaker, who is Richard Schweinhart.
Welcome.
Good to be here. We all live in the Lake Hills area. Is this on? I've come to talk today about the changes in the neighborhood construction hours that you guys passed recently. That's a mess. As you can see from this calendar, I think you can all see that. So they're allowed to work 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And Monday through Saturdays, there are the days builders are allowed to work Monday through Fridays. They get 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., which is 13 hours. And then Saturdays, it's 8 to 8, which is 12 hours for a sum of around 77 hours per week. You subtract 8 hours of sleep, I get to enjoy my house 4 hours a day on those days because they have noise, etc. In those 12 to 13 hours, we get to endure loud noises, saws, hammers, nails, loud machines, including bulldozers, forklifts, generators, and I don't know if you've all ever been around this, you probably have, but anyway. We've endured, there's diesel fumes, honey bucket odor, cars blocking our streets, dust and grit invading our yard and our home. We've endured power lines pulled down from our house, aggressive workers block streets. The police have been called multiple times, and we have sustained damage to our property, and our efforts at contacting the owners has fallen on deaf ears. These hours favor the builder rather than me as a homeowner. I don't have the luxury of any construction work schedule to plan a Saturday barbecue or gathering of friends or quiet use of my home. One of the neighbors has temporarily moved out of one of the houses. I'm here to plead that these schedule hours be rescinded. They shouldn't be that long. That's wrong. I'm interested in knowing if the council gave any thought to us homeowners and the burden that these extended hours would subject us to. I just don't understand why they have preference over us. And this is how close they are to our house. That's from my front deck. And this is the picture of what it looks like from our front door. Now, these Our lots are a little bit different because of the cul-de-sacs, et cetera. When we walk out of our front door, this is what we see. It's terrible. And I think you guys should rescind that many hours because they
Mr.
shouldn't be allowed to
Schweinhardt?
do that, plus
Mr.
not
Schweinhardt?
have any construction
Your time
on
has
Saturday.
expired.
Thank you.
Our next speaker on the list
Thank
is
you.
Alex Zimmerman.
I'm going to say, before our next speaker, city manager, I know that when we voted those hours in, it was different for neighborhoods as opposed to outside of neighborhoods, and just to make sure that the hours that they're experiencing are within what's allowed. We have somebody check on that.
Mayor, we can have somebody check on that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yichai, my lovely consul, Bessie State, Washington, crook, psycho, и anti-Semite. My name is Alex Zimmerman. I'm president of Stand Up America. I live here for a year, and I'm a Jew. It happens sometimes. I'm not choices. I'm guilty, I know this. So Jewish month is very interesting, you know what I mean? And who represents Jew? One person? You told everybody we have 1,000 Jew in city. Why is this only 1%? Strange, you know what I mean?
Okay,
this
Mr.
should-
Zimmerman, you need to speak to council business. This is
It's a
nothing to
council
do,
business. You again
this is
interrupt me.
nothing to do with
This
what
a
the city
council business.
council
I spoke
makes any
about-
decisions
I
on. So
spoke
that's a
about
warning.
Jewish months. You don't interrupt me. I told you before. You look to me like a maniac.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about Jewish problem. What is we have here? Is this exactly? So my question right now, because I come to this council chamber 30 plus years, you know what it means. If something happened with Chinese, it's 100 Chinese here. Something happened with Indian, it's 100 Indian here.
Okay, Mr. Zimmerman, that has nothing to do with council business, okay? So you
You
need to
have
stick
this-
to council business.
You're talking about Jewish months.
That's your second
Why you
warning.
interrupt me?
That's your second
No,
warning.
because you don't want what is I'm talking. You are crooks
That is your
and
second warning.
criminal. You exactly hate me because I'm a Jew. I cannot find another reason. Jewish months and I cannot speak about Jew problem? Who are you? It's a Jewish problem. You know what it means when only one person come and represent Jewish community. So not to surprise me, for example, so you choose Iranian Muslim, be a consul, you know what it means? It's a pure
Okay, Mr.
anti-Semitism.
Zimmerman.
What?
You're not speaking to business to do with the
I
council.
speak about Jewish months.
You're talking about an election?
I speak about Jewish
No.
months because you're anti-Semite. You are
okay,
bandita
that's enough.
and criminals. That's exactly
you're
who
done.
you are.
Okay, you're
you
done.
understand?
It's time for
You're
you to leave.
anti-Semite, bandita,
You cannot
and
be
criminal.
talking about things
no,
that have nothing
I have
to do
right
with
speak about
what the
this
Bellevue
because
City
it's a
Council
month
makes
today.
decisions or
And you
discusses.
promote this
could
exactly
you
about
please ask
this.
him to leave?
I have right doing this. What?
You're finished, okay?
What do you mean finish? I have right speak. I'm a Jew. I want to speak about Jewish months. Where is the
Okay,
problem?
we're going to take a 3-minute
Where is the
break here.
problem? Huh? Why I cannot speak about Jewish months?
Ms. Carlson?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We're very pleased tonight to have Shelley Brinningham and Brad Bennett here. They're going to give you an overview of the upcoming summer activities for the Parks and Community Services Department. Bellevue Parks puts on a wide variety of essential programs during the summer for youth and families. And we wanted to make sure that the community is aware of the breadth of the offerings. So Shelley is the assistant director, and Brad is a program manager in the Parks and Community Services, and I will hand it off to Shelley.
And good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakutian, and council members. As acting city manager Diane Carlson said, I'm Shelley Brittingham, Parks and Community Services Assistant Director, and with me tonight is Brad Bennett, Parks and Community Services Program Manager. Together, we will provide an overview of the many exciting and fun upcoming programs and events and activities available to the community this summer with Parks and Community Services. Summer Park's high use starts as early as May 1st, depending on the weather. Our park rangers are an integral part of keeping visitors safe and happy, providing educational outreach and assistance throughout the system. Bellevue's summer park rangers work from Memorial Day through Labor Day, 8 a.m. to midnight, providing education and outreach for the city. Last year, rangers interacted with more than 55,000 park visitors. Summer reservations for family and community gatherings in our parks opened earlier this year, and to date, 445 reservations have been made through the new online reservation process, which has been very popular with our community. Popular parks for these gatherings include Downtown Park, Crossroads International Park, and Newcastle Beach Park. Our resource management teams work hard year-round to keep our grounds and facilities inviting, safe, and available to the community.
We have 6 beach parks in Bellevue with swim areas that have lifeguards on duty daily from mid-June through Labor Day. Guarding at Enetai, Maidenbower Bay, and Newcastle swim areas are scheduled to start on June 22nd. Chisholm, Clyde, and Chesterfield swim areas will start on a week later on June 29th. We have up to 70 lifeguards that are needed to cover all those swim areas during the summer months. We're still recruiting and currently need about 20 more guards, but are confident we'll have fully staffed when the swim areas open up next month. In 2023, approximately 48,000 people visited our beaches and swim areas during the guarded hours. We have a variety of half-day and full-day camps for youth ages 4 to 18 that are offered throughout the city of Bellevue from June 24 through the end of August. Camps are offered at community centers and recreation facilities, both indoors and outdoors. Currently, 77% of all the day camp roster spots are filled. Popular camps this summer include those offered at Kelsey Creek Farm and our youth sports day camps. The youth sports day camps are introductory, multi-sports, and water activity camps designed to keep participants physically active and learning all summer long. Another popular camp this summer is the Architects Building in 3D Camp, where participants construct both small and large-scale art and paper-mache masterpieces while using problem-solving skills and creativity. Summer brings a number of special events to our parks. Overall, large special events throughout the year have increased from 23 last year to 40 scheduled in 2024. This summer, events put on by Parks and Community Services include the Lake to Lake Bike Ride, a non-competitive, family-friendly event on June 8th. The event showcases some of Bellevue's finest parks and features 2 route options, a flat 8-mile ride and a 24-mile ride with some hills. A free kids ride for ages 3 to 8 also takes place in Robbinswood Park. Last year, 459 individuals registered for this event. The Bellevue's Family Fourth lights up the sky above Downtown Park on July 4th. As well as fireworks, the event features live music, food, kids' activities, and more. An estimated 75,000 people attended this event in 2023. Outdoor movies in the park take place in July and August at 2 locations. This will be the 16th summer in Downtown Park and the 12th year at Crossroads International Park. These popular family events draw approximately 3,000 people per week. Arts in the Garden is scheduled in late August. Visitors can discover 28 unique artists and a wide variety of 3D garden art available for purchase among the flower beds and woodlands of the Bellevue Botanical Garden.
We hope to see you and the community in our parks, on our trails, and at our facilities this summer. We truly are a city in a park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, anything else, City Manager?
No, Mayor, that's it for the city manager report tonight.
Okay, thank you. So next we have council business and new initiatives, and we have 2 items to do tonight. First is we have 3 council members who will be absent from the June 11th meeting who are seeking permission or to be excused. And so is there a motion? And we have Deputy Mayor Malakutian, Councilmember Lee, and Councilmember Zahn. So is there a motion?
Yes. I move to excuse Deputy Mayor Malakushian, Councilmember Lee, and Councilmember Zahn from the June 11th, 2024 City Council regular meeting.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then we have next a discussion regarding the city manager profile and our next steps. And so, City Manager, would you like to introduce, please?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. We have Deputy City Manager Joe Todd, who will lead the presentation, along with a consultant, Juan Padillo, I will not get the last name. I think.
Carlos Padilla.
Padillas, thank you. And then Joy St. Germain is here as well. And so I will turn it over to Joe to kick off the presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakutian, and council members. In a regular council meeting on March 4th, council provided staff direction on two things related to the process to fill the permanent city manager position. One, create a city manager profile, and two, hire an external executive search firm. This evening, we are providing the city manager profile. I'm Deputy City Manager Joe Todd, and at the table with me, I have Juan Padilla, of Juan Padilla Consulting, who was hired by the city to build the city manager profile, and Joy St. Germain, Director of Bellevue Human Resources. I'll be turning the discussion over to Mr. Padilla to walk through the development process and then the profile, while Joy will provide you answers on functional HR questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Padilla.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here today to go over this profile with you all. Today we'll be seeking adoption of the city manager's candidate profile, as Joe just mentioned, as well as seek council's directions on the next steps. The agenda, we're going to go over the data collected, information gathered, a little bit about the position, the actual attributes, and a little bit of summary. About 3 months ago, I was contracted to come work with the city of Bellevue to help identify the key attributes that are needed for the next city manager. And so that's what I've done, and so we started with some data collection. Next slide. Our data collection came from meeting with the city council, business community interviews, leadership team survey, and a community survey. During the council interviews, here are the standouts from the council interviews. Looking for someone that's a champion for collaboration, and that's working with the city council, the staff, and the community, someone that can put those three together. Stable leadership, bold leadership, someone that fosters equity and belonging, regional influence and knowledge, someone to take Bellevue into the future, challenge the status quo, address challenges head-on, and someone that is nonpartisan. During the business community interviews, the business community would love to continue existing relationships and building future relationships with the city of Bellevue. Someone that understands equity across all business entities. Focus on the growth of Bellevue, housing, transportation, cost of living. A transparent leadership and interactions with all Bellevue entities as well. And again, stability and consistency. Leadership team survey. Looking for an experienced leader with a passion for public government and relationships. Again, community, staff, and council. A visionary leadership and support for the staff. Someone that focuses on the rapid growth of Bellevue, a champion of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and trust and empowerment of the leadership team. The community survey, equity, belonging, and cultural competence, collaboration and relationship building, ability to be empathetic and understanding of all residents, transparent leadership, and making authentic connections with residents, business, and staff, and again, someone that's consistent. A little bit about the position. This position is responsible for carrying out the City Council's policy, strategic direction through leadership and management of City of Bellevue staff, operating departments, and functions. And now we'll get into a little bit of the candidate profile. Okay.
These two paragraphs, so everybody gets a chance to hear
Will
it.
do. Yes, Ms. Mayor. This is the top executive leadership position in the city, reporting directly to the Bellevue City Council. directs and oversees the planning, design, and development of policies and projects and programs for the organization, executes the policy direction of the Bellevue City Council, and is directly accountable to the Bellevue City Council, which has both appointment and removal authority, represents the city of Bellevue to external agencies and the public, speaks on behalf of the policy direction provided by the Bellevue City Council.
Great.
And here are some of the key attributes, what I like to call the must-haves in the next city manager. A bold leader, a regional influencer, fosters belonging, manages growth, someone that's transparent, deliberate, supportive, strong emotional intelligence, a collaborator, relationship builder, business and political acumen, consistent, challenges the status quo, and is empathetic. And of course, since we have the must-haves, here are some of what the city of Bellevue is not looking for. Not a team player, non-collaborative, non-communicative, arrogance, dishonest, lack of accountability, poor work ethic, political, not engaged, an office hobbit, someone who thinks Bellevue needs fixing, fails to take responsibility, and does not understand Bellevue's form of government. The next city manager must be adept at helping council craft policy and leading staff in operationalizing council's areas of focus. These are the areas of focus that the city council has currently: high-quality services and engagement, housing, community belonging, mobility and connected communities, a safe and prepared community. This is where the direction comes into play.
So we just leave it open for you guys to have a discussion.
Okay, so we're looking to whether or not we will adopt this proposed city manager candidate profile, if we want to change it or if we don't want to adopt it. And so this is open up for questions and comments. Anybody have any questions or comments of what you're seeing? Does it resonate with you? Is it something we can approve? Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councilmember Lee.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Looks like that everybody's kind of really happy with your description, and I think by and large I fully concur. If you go back to the City Council survey, or most of the things you mentioned, it's right on. But I believe that there's a couple of things, maybe it's just sort of underneath the surface that need to be highlighted. You know, based on my experience in the council, have seen what the city has changed over the years, and we are in the position of really moving forward, you know, in a very bold way. So I like the word you mentioned, being bold, being courageous, being not questioning status quo. So I think I just want to mention a couple of things, is that we need to enable the city manager, enable city council members or all team members. Has to consider the council as part of the team member. We need to be enabled with the support, with adequate resources, and to maximize our potential, because all of us, you know, are not professionals. Council members, most of us are part-time. We are part-time, supposedly.
Councilmember Lee, I think those are great comments, but that's really not part of the candidate profile. So can we keep it, can we stick to the
But I want to
candidate
explain. So,
profile?
well, come to us. I don't think we want the caretaker,
Okay,
okay? We want the professional that can help enable all team members, including council members, to be productive with maximizing our potentials. Whatever help we need. City managers, professional, has seen a lot of other people how to perform, how to produce to the maximum potential. And we need to be included as council members.
okay. So I'm seeing, now, so I'm hearing you say that you want to highlight in the qualifications that they be bold, courageous, question the status quo, that they enable council members to be productive and function at their full potential.
It's all said in the description.
Yeah.
But
I think
just
it's
want to-
already there.
But I just want to clarify it.
Okay,
Let's
thank
make
you
it-
for the
well,
clarification.
I want to say, I don't think we need a caretaker.
Okay.
Because you already said it. If you have to be bold, have to question status quo, that's good. The reason I want to emphasize it because we are now in the position to really move forward. Bellevue is in a very unique position. We just mentioned earlier, the mayor mentioned, we have companies like 425 indicated, we're well positioned. We don't need to just be timid, status quo, and stay where we are. We need to enable everyone from top down to the bottom. Top includes city council members.
So I hear you speaking from your economic development background. And so it doesn't sound like we need to change anything. So could I have a motion to accept as written?
I move to adopt the city manager candidate profile as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So now we want to talk about what the next steps are. And Juan, I would like to hear from you, and maybe you could give us some information and even provide a recommendation of what you would recommend our next steps be.
Okay. So here's some of the recommendations going through this, through the collecting the data and stuff. My professional opinion, I feel that the acting city manager meets this profile and would be a great asset, continued asset to the city. With that being said, my recommendations would be interview the acting city manager and consider direct appointment at a special meeting with the support of Bellevue's HR, or conduct an external recruitment process through the city of, using the city of Bellevue's HR department, or hiring an external search firm.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop here for a minute because what you're recommending is a little different from what we voted on. And I want to know if that's even a possibility to do something differently, if that's what our council decided to do. So Charmaine, City Clerk, could you tell us how that works, if that was something, a path we wanted to go down?
Sure. If the council was wanting to reconsider or provide different direction, that was only 2 months ago, and the council does have a rule in place in the council rules that does limit discussion in different direction within a 6-month time period. So the council would need to suspend that portion of its rules for this evening in order to have that discussion and provide alternative direction.
Okay. So I think what I hear you saying, what we voted on was to do a national search with an external firm. Am I correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. What I hear you saying is the possibility of going through an interview with our acting city manager using inside like HR department with Joy, or we could do the national search with our HR team, Joy, or we could do what we originally voted on, which is to go conduct a national search with an external firm. So I think I would like to just hear how the council feels about this, and I'll start with you, Councilmember Stokes.
Yeah, and I would like to go back to the first thing you said on that. I think, and I appreciate, sir, that you actually recognize the attributes of our acting city manager. And I think given all the different factors on this, including the fact that we're in a time period that is monumental for the city, and things working out in the next few months that need to be going forward. So being able to hire and bring on board a well-qualified, as you stated, I think meets all the characteristics and is ready to go, and the council is together, and we could go forward instead of, frankly, I wouldn't say it's wasting time, but not having to go through a process and then come back and say we did something and we lost some time on going forward. So I'm very much in favor of moving forward with the most expediency we can do.
Okay, so there's 2 questions at hand. One would be if there's interest in taking a vote to suspend the rules and revisit this. Does that take a supermajority or anything? We have 7 here tonight.
Yeah, a temporary suspension of the rules does require a 2/3 vote, which for this council of 7 would be a vote of 5.
Okay. So maybe we can speak to that. Councilmember Neuenhuis, you want to start that conversation?
Well, I have a couple of questions for Juan to start with regarding this profile. Actually, even before that, when you were first brought on board, can you please tell me what your scope of work was for this?
My scope of work, sir, was to identify the attributes, the key attributes for the next city manager. of
Right, the
city of Bellevue.
profile.
Yes.
Was part of that work to assess and make a recommendation on who should be hired as the city manager?
No, but through my data collecting and research, it was pretty evident in my professional opinion that, that Diane Carlson has a lot of support.
Which we all recognize. I'm just a bit confused why we're having that conversation when I thought we were just talking tonight about the profile, and now it seems like we're setting this up to reopen on something that we have already voted on. So I'm a little bit confused where we're at right now.
I think we're reassessing our next steps, and we're listening to his recommendation, but we're also listening to council where they are. I have no idea.
But why are we reassessing when we voted on direction?
I guess because he has a different recommendation from what we voted on.
But his task was not to reassess. His task was to come up with the profile.
Well, and we can stick with what we voted on.
Or we could do another thing. It's not-
We certainly could. It just feels unprecedented that we would, in the middle of this process, reevaluate. Again, and I think we've all made it abundantly clear the last time we had this conversation that we all think the world of the interim city manager right now. But I thought after our last conversation, it was clear in terms of the path that we were going down. And now there's a recommendation of this consultant who did a wonderful job in putting this profile together. I think it's spot on. I'm just perplexed why we're reopening this up now, to be honest. So that's where I stand right now. I'm curious what my colleagues think and listening to other opinions, but it surprises me.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Zahn?
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I really appreciate getting the profile. I will just say that on March 4th, although I changed my position in order to support my colleagues, we're actually back to where we were on March 4th when I asked the question about why we needed at that time to work all the way through a external search, because in fact, I went back to the minutes just to remind myself about what I said. And, at the time, I wanted to finalize the profile before deciding whether to appoint or recruit. And also that if the profile aligns well with the acting city manager, that recruitment process may not be necessary. So if my colleagues are willing to reconsider, I think that in my mind, it isn't so much a direct appointment as still having the conversation now that we have the profile in front of us to, I don't know if Charmaine, this is a process we could do, but essentially have an interview of the acting city manager to talk about these very qualities that we have determined ourselves, the staff, as well as the community, have determined are the qualities we're looking for in the city manager, so that there is always a transparency to how we make decisions. So I would say that I'm curious about where my colleagues are, because this was a bit of that pause that I thought was important, just to, because I was not going to presuppose what the profile was going to look like.
Right.
Because we hadn't done the interviews yet.
Another thing that we should get clarification on is during that meeting, Joy, you indicated you didn't think that in-house staff had enough people power to actually do the process on their own. which I think, at least, well, I imagine influence the vote to do an outside firm. And so where do you stand on that today?
Yeah, things have changed with our resources, and we could do this internally. We just completed the process for the community development director, for example.
Right, right. Okay, so that is different information. Okay, anything else, Councilmember Zahn?
No, I look forward to listening to my colleagues.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a topic that whenever I start talking, I should acknowledge how amazing and excellent work our current interim city manager is doing, and I have full trust in her capabilities. I love the profile. I think you did a fantastic job, so congratulations. I like that we have I like this council or this process that we have new data, we have new information, and we iterate our process. I like that, actually. And I appreciate Councilmember Zahn, who actually mentioned that. She mentioned in that meeting, hey, I cannot go to the next step before I have the profile. And she mentioned that clearly. And I think at the end we voted, hey, doesn't matter what profile is, we are going through the research. So although this profile did not change my vote, I still like the search, but I am open to reopen that conversation among all of us to see what everyone thinks and maybe revisit that decision. And maybe now, because we know we have capacity internally, instead of hiring, pay the money to an executive external recruiter. Timing is very important. I think we should finalize this very fast. So I think we have new information and data, and I'm open to reopen all of our discussion and see what we can come up with.
I'll say that when we had this discussion originally, what I wanted to do was to start with our sitting city manager and interview her and do an internal process, and then decide whether we wanted to do an outside search after that. And so what you're recommending is exactly what I had wanted to do originally.
Yes, ma'am.
The twist here is the suspension of the rules. That's something we've never done. Well, actually, have we, Charmaine?
The council has suspended their rules temporarily quite a bit during COVID, just not this particular section of the rules.
And who made the rule originally that we're considering suspending?
That would take a little bit of research, but it has existed in the council's rules
I
for
mean,
many years.
Is it a council rule or is it a state rule?
It is a council rule.
It's a council rule, so
It
it
is a
was
self-imposed
initiated by the council. Okay, so I would love to go with my original idea, so I guess I'm comfortable taking a vote to suspend the rules. Councilmember Lee.
I have all the confidence, and I am very impressed with our interim city manager. And even, with the profile, I'm not saying that exactly meets. I don't know, because we haven't gone through the specific terms and details, the process of getting the best we can get. And so I feel that if we change, city of Bellevue is a big city, and this decision, hiring city manager, the leader of the city, who execute and implement our policies, is very important. If anything, this is probably the most important decision we ever make, because that's how the city manager executes, how make things happen for the city. So I don't think we should compromise it in any way. We may come down to pick our interim acting city manager anyway, but we need to go through the process. That's the only way we can be transparent. The only way we can show people that we are doing what we should be doing. It's two separate things.
So Councilmember
Yeah.
Lee, we're talking about going through, just excuse me for just a minute. We're talking about the option of going through a whole process internally, locally, versus doing it nationally.
Well, it's important because it's such an important decision we're making. We need to do the most we can, the best we can, which is a national search.
Okay,
That's the whole thing. If we don't do that and we change our mind, it's not transparent. It's questionable. We heard that Councilmember Newhouse already brought up these questions. It's not. We need to be serious about what we're doing. It just doesn't make sense. We may come to the same conclusion, but we got to make sure that we find the person that meets all the criteria, the profile that we're talking about.
okay, thank
We
you.
cannot make any assumptions.
Okay,
we cannot.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for all the hard work. I agree. I think the profile is really spot on. I think that describes the candidate that we're ultimately looking for. I mean, obviously, certainly to Councilmember Lee's point, this is one of the most consequential roles in our city. So I think it's important that we do follow a good process. I think Brad Miyake was a standout city manager. I think we need to build on that success, keep the city going the same positive trajectory. Again, I think in March we were clear that we wanted to have a thorough, deliberative process in selecting our city manager. I think, I'm really impressed with already the seriousness with which we're carrying out that process. I want to honor that. But I look at it as kind of a dynamic process. And as we gather information, we're guided in a direction to making that final decision. So, based on what I'm seeing here in the profile, based on my own, data collection, so to speak, I do think this really does point to our acting city manager. All the stakeholder input, I think, is really important. I think it points us even more clearly to our acting city manager. And I think, too, we want to avoid the risk of this process appearing to be performative. I think it's only prudent that we continue with the same process, but that we add a step to it. So what I think would be good for us to do is to conduct the interview with the acting city manager. I would like to see what the outcome of that is. And I think it could lead us to decide to offer Diane Carlson the position. It may not. But I think that based on what we're seeing here, we should take that step. And if we conduct an interview, we continue on with the process. So if it's so clear, which it is to me, that this is the next best step, we conduct the interview. And then again, after the interview, we can decide what we think is best. So that's what I'd like to see us do. I think it would be time well spent, and I think we just can't ignore what we're already seeing, and that leads me to want to have this interview.
So I'd like to get a motion on the table to suspend the council rules to allow, what would that sound like? Allow council to take another vote on the process, the city manager process. Can I just get clarification? Does that sound right?
Yeah, the specific rule is 10E in the council's rules.
Okay, 10E.
And the suspension, I would suggest, would just be for this evening's meeting.
Okay, suspension for tonight's meeting to suspend Rule 10E to revisit next steps on the city manager interview process, selection process. Can I get a motion?
Yes, I move to suspend for just tonight's meeting to revisit the next step for hiring the city manager for Bellevue.
Is there a second?
Second. I have a question before we vote, Mayor.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So can you please clarify exactly what the suspension of these rules now mean if we do vote in the affirmative for it?
So the suspension, what we're suspending is the rule that says you cannot revisit this vote. So the rule that was, I guess, determined by a council long ago said that if you pass a certain amount of time, if there's more than one meeting after you've made a vote, you cannot revisit that vote. And so we're asking, and it would have to be a supermajority on the council, if the council would consider suspending that rule so that we can decide whether we want to take a vote on what our next steps are and kind of reassess, given that we have new information, that we have now inside staff that can conduct, which we didn't have last time. That's the biggest change for me, actually. But anyway.
And the new information, as we see it, is a recommendation from the consultant?
Well, the new information for me is that our staff could conduct the interview, because last time we discussed it, Joy didn't feel that she had the people power to actually do that, and we would have to hire an outside firm. So for me, that's new information. And also the new information is that we have a consultant who met with the community, with staff, with the council, and came to the conclusion that maybe it's not the best idea to do an outside search first. Maybe the best idea is to do an internal search first, using our staff and starting with interviewing our sitting city manager. And if we don't decide that that's who we want, then we move to the next step of doing a national search. And then we could decide whether we wanted to do that with our own staff or to hire an external firm. So that is what's changed, and that's what we're kind of re-examining tonight. And if you don't want to do that, then we'll vote no. But I'm going to give everybody a chance to talk here, so I'm going to let Councilmember Newhouse finish.
I'm fine for right now. We can go to Councilmember Lee. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go down the row again, okay?
I'm clear. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Stokes.
Well, I think what we're suggesting is a better way to go. We have something that we asked someone to take a look at this, and we got a strong recommendation. We have all the information we need to what we want to have from an individual. Going through a process just because we want to go through a process, it sounds awfully bureaucratic to me, and I think in Bellevue we try not to be bureaucratic and waste time in effect or effort when we have something that we're pretty good at knowing we have something that is really good to go on and go with it. I just think we're at a point now, we thought about this, people have changed their minds in a sense going through this. I think wasting time and money and energy to come up with a decision we could have made now. It's so clear out there that we have someone who is really, really great for the job for all the reasons we talked about.
Well, thank you.
And so I'm ready to make the change and go forward.
And I'm going to clarify, there's a couple of steps here. So the first one would be if we decide to, we've got a motion on the table to suspend the rules that allows us to take another vote. And then if we get a 5-7 yes to do that, at least a 5-7, then we can all vote on what is the next step going to be. Is it going to be internal? Is it going to be external? Is it going to be a national search with our own staff conducting it? Is it going to be a national search with an external firm? So there's going to be a few steps here tonight, but the motion on the table right now is whether we will suspend that rule that allows us to re-examine what our next steps are going to be. Councilmember Lee.
I don't believe there's enough new information. I think the mayor mentioned the new information that justify the suspending the rules. I want to clarify and respond to the reason why I really respect and I agree with Councilmember Hamilton for his position, and because it's really done well. But it's important, it's a very key, crucial decision the city makes, if any. So we need to be very, very using due diligence. Fairness, it's a big deal on this. When you have the same process, doing differently, it's no longer fair. Fairness means when you use the national search, national consultant, national process. You cannot do one thing and then use another thing to come up with an acceptable comparison. That's not fair. Appearance is important, not just appearance. So all the description of being, wasteful, not whatever, it is not. We don't make decisions based on experience. We make decisions based on what we actually do fairly. I agree, we need to interview the current acting city manager. She's proven to be very much in line with what we're looking at. But before we can say that's the case, affirmatively, for the city of Bellevue to basically put, we need to be sure it is. It has to be equal, same consideration and comparison, the same process, so we can make that decision. Otherwise, it is not. So as a result, I don't think we are, I don't mind going through the process, absolutely. We need to interview the acting city manager, and she may get a job, for that matter of fact, but you have to go through the process. Otherwise, there's always the question and doubt.
Okay, thank you.
So I would not support it for those reasons.
Thank you, Councilmember Lee. Councilmember Hamilton, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm definitely in favor of suspending the rule. And the way I see it is there's enough new information. Some folks may find some of this new information more compelling than others, but the fact that we have so much new information, I think we would benefit from suspending the rules, having a discussion about going forward to consider this new information and make a decision. And so I am in favor.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to suspend Rule 10E. It has been seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so I think that passes 2-5, 5-2? Okay. All right, so that opens up the next topic, which is, we're talking about how we're going to proceed with interviewing for our next city manager. And I think the choices, and there may be other choices, this can be changed. To me, the choices are, we interview our acting city manager and consider that appointment, or we go to a national search and either we use our HR staff to conduct that national search, or we do an external firm, we use an external firm. And I'm assuming that if we interviewed our acting city manager first, we would use our in-house staff to do that. So we have option one, start with interviewing our acting city manager, use our in-house staff and see if that becomes an appointment. Two, and if not, we would automatically go to a national search. Or we say, let's vote and we'll conduct a national search. If we decide to do that, we need to decide whether we use our HR staff to do it or we hire an external firm. Does that sound clear to everybody?
Sounds good.
Okay, so Councilmember Hamilton, we'll start with you.
I just have a question. I'm
Yeah.
curious, so if in conducting an interview with Diane, are council members involved in that as well?
Yeah, maybe, Juan, you could describe what that process would look like.
Yeah,
Or Joy.
the council members are the appointing authority for the position, so you clearly would be critical for the interview process.
So what does that process look like?
We would need to come up with the questions that you want to ask based on the profile that you adopted. And then also consider, do you want other panels or other parts of the interview process for the assessment? But otherwise, it would be the full body of the council. You could do individual interviews as well.
Is this a process that we would work with you to create?
Yes.
Okay, I get you. All right, any comments or questions, Councilmember
No,
Hamilton?
thank you for clarifying that. And again, as I said earlier, I'm definitely in favor of conducting this interview. I think we've learned a fair amount in this process that bypassing this step at this point, not interviewing Diane for the position, I think would be a mistake. There's no reason that if we're not convinced after the interview to move forward, then we have a process that we've discussed and that I think there's general agreement on. So I just think we don't want a performative process, and too much of what we're seeing just points me in a pretty clear direction. So I would like to conduct the interview, make a decision from there, and if necessary, kind of essentially carry on the process that we already had adopted.
If we did a national search, would you want to use our HR staff or an external firm?
Yeah, I think ideally, if we have the capacity internally, I would prefer that option.
Okay. Councilmember Lee.
I have a question for the staff. When we asked, Mr. Padala to come up with a profile, how did we decide to hire outside consultant to do it? How come we didn't do it internally?
It was a capacity issue at the time.
Capacity issue?
From seasoned HR
I would
professional.
imagine, my thought of that is, that's the reason we hire consultants, because they see the world, they see the broad picture, they have experience, that's a job, they're professionals. They do. That's what we want. We want to have the reason it's a national search is that we want to get the best there is. I'm being honest. Bellevue has to be the best. We are going to hire our acting city manager, Diane Carlson, because she is the best. She can prove to be the best around the nation. If she doesn't have a national search, she wins the job. There's a question, is she the best? I want it to be legitimate. We need to have the best in the country to hire people to compare with Diane. And I'm confident, if we believe that, she will win. If we're not confident, then it's, whoa, gee, don't go national. Let's do it ourselves. You want to have that question hanging your head? No.
Okay, thank you.
So I would not recommend that. I would recommend national search, because we will prove what we got is the best.
I'm hearing that you would want a national search with an external firm.
Absolutely.
Okay, Councilmember Stokes.
Well, my position's completely opposite to that for a lot of reasons, and the gentleman who is not part of the system here has made a recommendation, actually, has said that she is the best. Is
You're
confident.
talking to me, so I
Well, no, I'm just
No.
talking, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you.
Okay, I'm going to ask both council
I
members.
want to see what your.
I'm going to ask both council members to not talk to each other. I understand that.
Okay.
But I'm going to ask both council members not to talk to each other
You're right.
and to
You're right.
instead
You're right.
speak to staff.
Tell the initiator first.
Go ahead, Councilmember Stokes. Continue with
Okay,
your
thank you.
comments and your questions.
Right. I think we're at a stage where we have a really good recommendation. I think there are a lot of factors in this. If we, I don't know, I mean, there are two different ways to look at it. I just think that we, at this stage, have a candidate that is excellent. I doubt that we would find somebody else. And we have someone who knows the system and all. We don't bring somebody from New York who wants to say, hey, we need to go up in a whole different direction. And then we spend the next 6 months going back and forth on that. When we really need to get going, we have a candidate who we have been actually told is excellent. And we know. So I think let's go this route. We still have other steps to go on this. I think it is a rational way to do this, and just doing something because that's kind of what we want, people say we have to do is not really very helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, if I didn't know our acting city manager, if I wasn't working so closely with our acting city manager, I wouldn't have a strong opinion on this. But knowing what I know, seeing what I've seen, watching the leadership and the skill set of this individual, I'm very comfortable with what we have. And I've worked with another wonderful city manager. Our acting city manager is very different from that, but I have a lot of confidence. in her, and also from the community input. I've talked to so many key leaders in our community, all of whom have confidence in our acting city manager. And to me, that warrants a little bit of a different approach than it would otherwise. And that's what gives me the confidence to interview our acting city manager first with our in-house staff, and then, if necessary, go on to a national search with our in-house staff. So that's where I get my comfort level from. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm going to reinstate my position. I have full trust in Diane Carlson's capabilities and believe she has done a remarkable leadership during her interim tenure. And I love that we revisit this decision because I think we got a lot of new information that it makes us very flexible about this process, not being very opposite of flexible. Saying all of those, I still want to do a search. I think a search shows our commitment to making an informed and deliberate decision that reflect our dedication to the best interest of our city. I agree that the profile match very well with our interim city manager, but everything is a spectrum, everything is relative to each other, so we need to see other candidates to be able to compare. I also believed in transparency, as Councilmember Lee mentioned. I think stakeholders should trust the fairness and integrity of our decision-making progress. So therefore, I am aligned with having a search, but it should be a very limited. It should be, in my opinion, happen with our internal capacity. The timeline should be very limited, in my opinion. I think we should maybe open the job posting 2 or 3 weeks, and then we should start doing the interview process. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Zahn.
Yeah, so I do have some questions about how this would work, because I do think it's important with the profile now in front of us to go through an interview process with the acting city manager so that she has an opportunity to demonstrate to us, the staff, and the community whether her skill set fully aligns with the profile or not. And my question would be, I want to make sure that this is something that is fully transparent, that the interview would actually be a public, in a public session, so that there is not any, because I believe in the transparency of process. And so I just want to make sure I understand from a process standpoint how that interview would be conducted, because I would think that we would want to make sure that the entire interview process would actually be public. Is that how it would work? Or is that something we would actually ask for it to be that way?
Yes, I think if that is the direction, then I would be working with the council on the process, and a public process on the interview is common for this level of position, and then the decision and deliberations would be done not in public. But the interview process, I would shape that with you if that is the direction that you would go in.
Well, I would say that that would be the only way that I would support an interview of starting with the acting city manager to see if that alignment of the profile and her qualities, which I agree with my colleague, she's been doing an exceptional job. However, I think it's really important that as we align the profile with her leadership and her skills and her style, that we are showing our homework the entire way and not doing things in the background.
Mm-hmm. Councilmember Newhouse.
Again, I'm going to reiterate that tonight, as far as I was aware, we were just going to discuss the city manager profile, and now we've taken this well beyond the scope of what I believed was on the agenda tonight. No one told me that we were going to be discussing this tonight. No one. Maybe my colleagues had different information than I did, but no one told me that we were discussing this tonight.
Well, I think this falls under next steps. Councilmember Newhouse.
Well, then I disagree with how we define next steps, because even in our packet, it says here next steps, but the principal part of this conversation was just supposed to be about the candidate profile. Having said that, we've rescinded our rules. As Councilmember Lee mentioned, and as I mentioned, we made this, when we voted on this back in March, I think there's real value to still doing a national search. I would, for reasons of expediency, I still think there's value in using an outside firm. I think our HR department is fantastic and does a great job. But one thing that they may not have, which may slow down the process, is access in terms of a Rolodex or contacts that recruiters live and die by. Joy, you know this very well, I know, but you know, they have a long list of city managers that they already may know might be looking for their next big opportunity, or know some of the hottest candidates, you know, in the region or nationally. So to help, again, expedite that process, I think there's some value to that. Although, Joy, if you tell me that we have that internal capacity to do that, or expertise, or those contacts, then I'd be open to hearing that argument as well. But typically, that's why you go with an outside search firm, is to help identify those candidates that meet the profile, this excellent profile that has been developed to you know, to move along that process. So that's kind of where I stand with that. You know, yes, I think there's value with, as my colleagues have mentioned, in terms of interview the acting city manager, et cetera, as we move down this process. But it's curious to me, if we interview our acting city manager, what are we comparing against? What are we? If it's just a profile, okay. You know, I can understand that, but I think that Bellevue and our residents and our business community deserve the best possible acting or city manager that we possibly can get. And I'm not sure we can say that unless we do a regional or national search to compare and contrast. As everyone on here has said, and time again, and this is why this is kind of awkward, we all think the world of Diane Carlson as acting city manager. But I think we deserve it to the city to do a national search. So that's kind of where I stand still.
So may I ask you a question?
Yes, you may.
So I understand your preference is to do a national search. If we were to go with conducting an interview with the sitting city manager first before we went on to a national search, would it make sense to do that with outside firm, an external firm, so that if that didn't work, we could use that same firm to then do a national search?
I'd put that on Joy. Do you think there'd be value for an executive search firm to be a part of those interviews?
If it's only with the city council, with Diane, I respect my colleagues, but I'm not sure that's necessary.
Okay.
Because we have the expertise to
Okay.
do that.
Well, I value your opinion. Thank you.
Okay. So we're kind of all over the place on this, which is fine. I'm seeing a preference for, it sounds like there's a preference for interviewing the acting city manager first before deciding to do a national search. In terms of the national search, I'm seeing a preference for having an external firm. So I would like a motion to start with an interview of our acting city manager with our in-house staff. And if we do not make a decision, we move on to a national search with an external firm.
I move to start the hiring process by interviewing our interim city manager at the first step, and if that doesn't go through, then we do a national search.
Second.
So there's a lot of caveats on this for people. And so I want to kind of give a chance for the council to put some caveats on how this might work for them. So, Councilmember Zahn, you had some, so let's start with you.
Yeah, I would say that I want to make sure that that all of the interview steps are transparent and visible to the public. So, in terms of, the questions, the answers, what that entire process looks like. Because I think that we cannot have the assurance at the end of the process that the process was fair and transparent without it being absolutely open. So,
I would like it to be a full process, a full, as if it was not our sitting city manager, as if we were starting fresh, that go through the entire application, the interview, presentation, everything that we would typically do. And we know how we did that with our previous city manager, and I don't know if we would do the same thing, but we have an idea of what that can look like. Councilmember Neuenhuis, any thoughts from you? Okay, how about you?
No, thank you.
How about you? Councilmember Lee?
Yes. I'm just extremely challenged that this is such an important decision we are making. As Councilmember Neuenhuis mentioned, we were not prepared to really have this kind of discussion. It needs a lot of conversation on this because for the reason that, has been mentioned, but I just want to condense it. If I were this acting city manager, I would be concerned too. I want to be going through the same process so that there's a fair comparison either way, whichever way. I don't want to have anything that's could be perceived as, we haven't done the best we can. We may be already, but why leave it for people to, we know her, like the mayor mentioned, we know her very well. We've seen what she's done, but we need to be affirmed. That's why we hire professionals. That's why I hire people who and the people who are interested in position need to also see it as a fair process. If we do it in such a way that people who maybe the best there is, they say, well, it's already a decision that's been made because you already have done this. So what's the chances? Why am I wasting my time? So I want to be completely fair and to get the best person we have. If we get Diane, we all seem to be confident. She will be the best, no question. But without going through this process, I am very skeptical.
Okay.
So I'm for Bellevue. I'm here forever. I will be here for a long time. I don't want to leave any mark on the city that people have questions about moving forward. And it compromises us when we're working under that environment. I want us to be in a real good, clean slate, taking advantage of the opportunity in front of the city of Bellevue. Nobody can criticize us. We say we are there ready for the world. If we don't do this, we are not ready for the world.
Okay, thank you. Before I call on you, Councilmember Hamilton, I want to have a clarifying from Trisna. Legally, have we noticed this enough in our packet to take this vote tonight, or is this something that we should notice and take on another night?
Yes, Mayor, you may take action on this tonight, since you did suspend the rules, as the city clerk had provided that instructions.
And you think that it was noticed enough that we were going to be talking about the next steps to hiring the city manager?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to get that clarified. Councilmember Hamilton?
Yeah, I certainly appreciate all the comments I've heard. I do think if we don't take this step, there is a danger in folks reaching the same conclusion, in that this is a preordained decision. So I think it's important the dynamic process has certainly led me to conclude that we should have this interview. It would be worse if we just go through this process, get to the end, and decide on Diane Carlson anyhow. So there's enough there to really point to her. Interviewing her at this point is definitely the right thing to do. I think it adds a lot of credibility to the process. If we're not convinced at the end of the interview, then we stay on the same track we're on. But I think this is very important for many of the same reasons, and certainly appreciate the comments my colleagues have made.
Okay, so with that, can I ask for the vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No. Nay.
Okay, so Councilmember Newhouse, I did not hear you vote.
I said aye.
Oh, you did, okay. All right, so that passes 5-2. Okay, thank you. Does anybody need to take a break?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take a break till 5 till 8. Okay, we will resume. Are we seriously at the consent calendar? I feel like we're much further into the meeting than that. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have one study session item. Ms. Carlson, would you like to introduce
Mayor?
that for us?
Council, as you're aware, last September, the city launched our Community Crisis Assistance Team, the CCAT team. This was funded by the council in the budget, the current budget. And this partnership between police and fire provides a very unique and coordinated community response to assist individuals in our community who are experiencing mental health or behavioral crisis. And we're beginning to see some of the results of the impact that this program is having on the community. So tonight we have Fire Chief Hagan and Natasha Grossman, the CARES and CCAT Program Manager from the Fire Department. We also have Police Chief Shirley and Captain Parrott from BPD. The team is here to share data and learning about the program so far, and this is information only. So with that, I will hand it over to Chief Hagan.
Good evening, Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakouti, and members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to address you with an update on the CCAP program this evening. To begin, on behalf of myself and the entire team, I'd really like to express some gratitude to you for having the faith in us to get this program off the ground and allowing us to share with you tonight an opportunity for you to hear about some of the great work this program is achieving in the community. You as a city council made a significant investment in this program in the 23-24 budget. And part of what we'd like to do tonight is not only share with you some of the progress of the team, but try to convince you that the investment and the faith you had in us was worthwhile. We'd also like to acknowledge that Senator Maria Cantwell, for her congressional support of $915,000 that funded much of the startup costs of this program. And we'd also like to recognize the support from our NORCOM dispatchers located on the 7th floor of this building for tracking our units in the field and dispatching us. This is just a roadmap for where we're going tonight in our brief presentation. We're going to be talking about the background of the program, how we're achieving some of our goals, and share with you some of the program outcomes and insights about the program that we've learned to date. Council, the purpose of this slide is to sort of orient you. It's been a while since we talked about this last. You may remember that we last presented to you on July 10th, 2023, And we reported at that time that we had hired and selected all of the MHPs, mental health professionals, and you see several of them behind me this evening. Thank you for staying. And we specially selected police officers for this program, and at that time, they began their training together in earnest. As a reminder, this program is an innovative, collaborative partnership with police and fire staffing CCAT units, that's Community Crisis Assistance Team, kind of a mouthful on that acronym. And the units are police officers and mental health professionals working together. However, CCAT is also coordinating with other city programs, such as homelessness outreach and code compliance. In addition to our additional partners, we're working with numerous community agencies like Eastside for All, Yes, Porchlight, Plymouth Housing, ICRON, and Overlake Hospital Medical Center. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Captain Ryan Parrott from BPD, who is going to present information about some of the calls CCAT is responding to and some of our outcomes to date. Captain Parrott.
Thank you, Chief Hagan. Got to get my directions correct. Over the first 8 months of service, CCAT has seen or has participated in 2,580 calls for service or self-initiated calls. That averages out to be 323 calls per month, or about 10 calls per day. Two of the most common call types, as listed up here, are behavioral health and suicide calls. As noted, currently, CCAT participates in 48% of the behavioral health calls and over 74% of those suicide calls in the last 2 months. And over the 8 months, that would amount to 484 behavioral health calls or 124 suicidal calls. That is a great burden that is taken off of our patrol officers and helps to put the right people who have the right training to handle those calls for service. During the time that the officers, CCAT officers, go out and meet with individuals, they have the opportunity, following the conclusion of that, to then make a self-assessment based on their previous knowledge as a patrol officer as to how they would have handled the call prior to receiving the training and being paired with the mental health professional. During that self-assessment, the officers looked at over 880 calls for service that they had had. Many of those calls for service don't involve calls that would have resulted in any need for a diversion or criminal charge or visit to an emergency room. But during those, there was 109 calls that they identified that were diverted because of that training they had. 27 criminal charges, 25 arrests, 8 incarcerations, 24 uses of force, and 25 emergency room visits were all able to be reduced or removed because of the service that the City Council has put into effect with the CCAT unit being in service. I'm now going to turn over the time to Natasha Grossman, who's going to go over some of the outcomes and insights.
Thank you. As we know, the hallmark of Bellevue's community crisis response model is the ongoing case management and support that CARES provides to individuals with whom we engage. As a reminder, this case management is predominantly provided by Master of Social Work students who come to us for practical experience. These students are provided clinical supervision and mentorship by a licensed clinical social worker. The CCAT budget supported us hiring an additional clinical supervisor, which has allowed us to increase the number of students we host from an average of 12 to 15 students to 30 students. This enables us to provide this ongoing case management, which is an average of an hour a week over 100 days to the individuals with whom we interact on CCAT. When issues are not resolved on scene, a referral is made to the CARES team for case management. Cases are opened when we're able to locate the individual and they agree to work with us. During this time period, we opened and assigned 143 individuals to advocates for case management. And just for reference, some of the reasons that cases are not opened and assigned to advocates are, as I said, the issue might have been resolved on scene. The person lives out of our service area. Maybe they're just coming through Bellevue, but they don't actually live here. We're unable to locate them. They might be experiencing homelessness, and then we're not able to find them again. Or they refuse ongoing services. So our services are voluntary, and people don't have to work with us if they don't want to. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to share a couple of success stories that you would like to share with you now, of people who we've worked with who we think had really great outcomes as a result of being involved with the CCAT teams. The first story is a story about a young man who we're going to call Bill Doe for this purpose. CCAT and patrol responded to Bill on a day he was armed and in a behavioral crisis in his home with his family. Officers attempted to contact Bill, but he would not agree to exit his residence. Ultimately, 16 police officers, including several SWAT team members, an aid car and 2 fire engines were dispatched to the scene. Eventually, they were able to convince, get the family members out. They were not able to convince Bill to leave, but he was not committing a crime, and they all left. We left at that point. However, CCAT made a referral to the King County Designated Crisis Responders. Those are the mental health professionals in the county who are authorized to take somebody into an involuntary treatment for assessment and possible ongoing treatment. That can take a couple of days before they come to make that assessment. So during that time, CCAT remained in contact with Bill's family while they waited for that mental evaluator to come and assess him. 2 days later, while they were waiting, the same CCAT unit responded to another disturbance that Bill was causing. While speaking with Bill during that interaction, CCAT established rapport with him, and he explained to them some of the delusions that he was having. Due to being in communication with Bill's mother over the last few days and having firsthand knowledge of the previous disturbances, CCAT was able to establish the criteria for them to put him on a police involuntarily hold to take him to the hospital and have him evaluated. He was evaluated and he stayed in the hospital, during which time CCAT continued to maintain contact with his mother and his family. Just under a month later, after his release from the hospital, they received a call from his sister for a welfare check. They had not seen Bill for some period of time. Bill had become homeless, and the family was really concerned about him. CCAT was able to locate Bill in the community, who was now so comfortable speaking with them that he began to cry when he talked about his current situation. He expressed how he was still he was still experiencing mental health symptoms, that he'd become homeless, and that he wanted help. At that point, CCAT voluntarily transported him to the hospital, and the CCAT MHP was able to inform the hospital staff and on-duty social worker of Bill's condition and his wishes. He was eventually transferred to a mental health hospital for treatment. After that, he went to a residential program where he was in long-term residential treatment and is still there and doing better. We think that this all happened because of the rapport that CCAT had built with him over time, and that relationship that they had developed, where he felt like he was able to tell them what he really needed and trusted them to take him to the hospital. And we feel like that outcome could have been very different had he not interacted with that team. So I'm going to turn it over to Captain Parrott, who's going to share another story with us.
Thank you, Natasha. And I think as this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and recognizing that no one is free from that, the behavioral health can have on any of us. I'll share with you a story that is near and dear to me of a child that over a weekend was going through a behavioral health crisis. As a 15-year-old transgender male whose parents had reached a point where they weren't able to connect with their child. And this child had consumed a handful of pills and armed themselves with a kitchen knife. The child then removed themselves to the backyard, still armed with a knife, and police were called because the parents weren't able to de-escalate that situation on their own. Upon arrival, 2 CCAT units equipped with a police officer and a mental health professional arrived on scene. So we had 4 individuals from the city there present. Additional officers arrived on scene shortly thereafter to help to contain the situation. Mental health professionals were able to talk with the parents and be able to start building rapport and get a history for the child. The officers engaged with this youth who was seated in the backyard. Through the training that was sufficiently given and provided to these mental health professionals and officers, going through what used to be known as hostage negotiation training, now we call it crisis negotiation training, they were able to work using that system and that training to be able to get the information from the parents, to be able to build a rapport with that youth, be able to say the right things and not to provide triggers. The information that they were able to glean and be able to talk to that youth was then able to de-escalate this youth to be able to then after a period of 1 hour of building and talking with them, that the youth moved away from the knife, and they were then able to peacefully, without any use of force, without ruining a future relationship with this youth who may come into contact with the police in the future, have a positive outcome, to get this youth transported to Seattle Children's Hospital and to get them the care they needed. As a parent myself, this is something near and dear to my heart, as I'm sure it is to each and every one of us who have siblings, family members, parents of our own. To see someone in a behavioral health crisis at this point, the outcome in this, success for this youth, is priceless, and is something that, because of the commitment the council has made, the police department and the fire department, we were able to provide this youth and countless others in the future as we go forward with the same type of resource. I'm going to turn the time over to Chief Shirley.
No, I'm still
Oh,
talking,
sorry.
sorry. Still me. We're gonna talk a little bit about what's we feel has been working. First of all, we have our teams housed together. So the CARES 101 social workers and the CCAT team are all housed together at Station 1. And we think that that's been working really well because it's provided the opportunity for spontaneous collaboration and sharing of information to support our clients. In between calls, they all share an office and they can talk about the last call they were on. They can talk about the last time they saw this client, what worked last time, what might work next time, because CARES and CCAT are seeing a lot of the same people. CCAT teams train together. So whether it be police training for an active shooters event or MHPs attending trainings on understanding the team brain, this has allowed for officers and MHPs to understand and respect each other's roles and perspectives even more. And then finally, there's been a lot of interest in CCAT in the community, more than I think we even anticipated. We are regularly receiving invitations to events to make presentations and to meet with community partners and their teams who want to know more about the program. And finally, we want to talk a little bit about looking forward, what's next for us. We said we would learn and adapt, and we believe that we are. There are different types of crises. Although many calls are labeled as behavioral health, there are different levels of crises. We can't be in more than one place at a time, but CCAT does respond to the majority of the more serious behavioral health calls. They're getting more experience and becoming more effective at their response. In the meantime, CCAT supervisors are beginning to train police and fire on how to handle less serious crises so that CCAT is available for those higher acuity calls. Next, we're excited that we are currently recruiting for an opioid response social worker to add to the team. This is being funded through the opioid settlement funds. And this person will provide outreach, case management, and connection to resources to individuals in opioid crisis and to their families. And then finally, we feel, as Captain Parrott just demonstrated, that the team greatly benefited from the basic crisis negotiation training and are using these skills regularly. Bellevue will be hosting an advanced crisis negotiation training in November, which secures us several no-cost seats in the training, and we plan to have the entire team trained in these advanced level skills. And now I will turn it over to Chief Shirley to wrap things up.
Before we open it up for questions, I just wanted to reiterate what was said at the beginning. The council made a huge investment in this program, and I can tell you it's working. We hear it from the community. We see it in the work that's being done. And we also promised that we were going to continue to stay open-minded and engage and learn and improve the program every single day. And I think that's what we've done. So with that, that concludes our presentation. We'll open it up for questions.
Thank you so much. This is information only. Any comments or questions? Councilmember Hamilton, we'll start with you and then come down this way.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for all the hard work. Clearly, you know, it's a great idea to have a program like this, but I think implementing, carrying it out, I mean, that is really the task, and it's clear you've done that well. I had a couple of questions, but you've answered it. I think this is just exactly what we should be doing. This should be a part of how we help out our community, how we support people in our community that need this help. So it's something that's very easy to support. I'm glad that we're getting the results that all of you and that my colleagues who supported this in the past expected to get. So it's something I'm really impressed with, really proud that the city invests this. I think these, like any good investment, you invest a little and it really pays off. So it's pretty clear that there's some substantial downstream benefits to this. And I think when we find something that's working, we want to continue to support it and find ways to enhance. So job well done. Appreciate the stories. And this is the second meeting in a row where I felt like some tears could flow. So I appreciate that I could hang in there. And Captain, thank you for just getting right to the edge, but not having to go any further. So keep up the good work. Well done. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee.
Well, my heartfelt thanks to you guys. This is not easy, and it's a very emotional. But despite of that, you have demonstrated your dedication, commitment, and to make it work. And I think we need more of that. If we do that, we have a lot less problem that we have to handle. So thank you. I have a question. You mentioned partners. Who are the partners that we're working with, or you're working with?
So we have a number of agencies that we've been working with. We've been meeting regularly with East Side for All, who's been giving us input about serving the communities that they serve. We've been working with Porchlight, which was formerly Congregations for the Homeless. We've been working really closely with them. We've been doing some case management for some of the men who are in their shelter and sharing case management on that. Same with Plymouth Housing, which is next door. We work with ICRON, which is a mental health agency that does both mental health and substance use disorder, and they manage some of the mental health teams that support some of our more seriously behavioral health challenged people. Yes, we've worked with YES, which is Youth East Side Services. Those are, and of course, we always are working with Overlake Hospital because we are often bringing people to their ER, and we try to maintain contact with them about the people that we're leaving there and what their discharge planning is.
Last comment is that we are a very multicultural society here. So many people from different cultures do not realize or understand mental health problems. They tend to keep it to themselves, but they need help just as much. So we have a cross-culture program, and I think we're making an effort to connect with different cultures, making sure that they understand this is a problem common to them all. So perhaps that's something that you can look into. That would be very helpful for cultures to understand. This is not a sham. It's not, shame. It's a problem that unfortunately, everybody could face. So I think it's a real good, valuable information for them to be connected with. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stokes.
Yeah, this is very, very exciting and very a testimony to how we work together and get things in place and keep working on them. And you're just doing amazing work. And I think you're, you had a lot of good planning, but you're kind of gone past that planning. That's what's good when you're showing it's really working. You do more and expand. And to come back with this data and what you've done in this short time period is very, very amazing. And it's really, really good. And I think it's obviously made a really good impact in the community as a whole. So just looking forward to more progress, and thank you very, very much. And this is a tough job, but you're doing a great job with it and really making this something that we can be proud of, because we are helping people in need in various ways and not just the old ways. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I just think this is outstanding. I think back, this is all emotional for all of us, because I know that we all have known somebody who has either succumbed to crisis or have harmed others. And I think about how my childhood friend growing up died. I hate to say it, but they call it suicide by cop, where you act threateningly enough when you're in crisis that somebody feels they have to shoot you. This is such a change from that. It's unbelievable to listen to you and talk about the training that everybody has had and this funding that you've received to enable a program to be created that can actually work for hours, for days, with somebody and their family to ensure that they get through this crisis and get the care that they need. This is government at its best, because this doesn't happen without government supporting it. I want to thank you all so much for what you're doing for the community. It's so appreciated. I do have one question. I don't know if you can answer this. Have we seen a drop in suicide rates since this program has been in our city?
I don't have the answer to that. I can look into it.
Okay, I'd appreciate knowing. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for a great presentation. I think this program and your effort represent a significant step kind of forwarding Bellevue to commitment to a fully compassionate, holistic approach to community safety and wellness. So thank you so much. The data that you showed shows that we are saving lives. We are changing people's lives trajectory. Those folks that you use the word diversion, we divert from what could have happened to what happened. Those people's lives definitely has changed for better. And I think overall we saved money for Bellevue because we kind of connect the resources and the support that they needed and reduce some unnecessary involvement that could have happened. So thank you. I have two questions. The first question is, how can we significantly improve this process, this CCAT program? And I've heard in the news that we can maybe integrate mental health counselor into 911 dispatch center as one option that has improved, and we see some improvement in some other neighborhood and neighbor cities and counties. So how can we improve? That's my first question. The second question is, in your presentation, you mentioned several times education, training, development. I do lots of ride-along. Whenever I go to any office station, I hear the same thing. They are all of these amazing human beings that providing these services wants more training, professional development, more support. How are we addressing that ongoing training, professional development, and all of those kind of stuff?
I'll at least start in terms of your first question about how can we enhance the program. So the program's been running about 8 months, and so we are closely monitoring a number of other jurisdictions that are using the 988, having a 988 social worker inside the dispatch center, crisis hotline, right? And they're working kind of together to triage calls and see who should go and who should not. So a few cities are doing it. They're about 60 days in, and we're in communications with them and our own dispatch director to monitor that and see kind of what the results are of that. That's part of us being open to enhancing our program, right? And Natasha also spoke about earlier how we are enhancing it by, we got some funding to add a social worker that can deal directly with some of the drug issues that we find in this kind of work. So those are just a few ways that we're looking to certainly enhance the program. You guys may have a few others.
Okay, and I would just say too that it's early in the program. We are collecting data and we are looking at things like the time of day that we're busiest, and do we have the teams on at the right time? So, but it's still early, so we would like to come back with that answer in the future. As far as continuing education, as we mentioned, we value training a lot. We already have the teams planned to get this advanced education. We have built into the budget for ongoing professional development. The social workers all do need to do continuing education annually to maintain their licenses, and we support that, and we support them getting those continuing education units in areas that will support the work they're doing here, whether it be, crisis response or specific types of mental health. We have a significant budget so that they can at least each of our social workers and some of our police officers we've got it planned so about half of them can go to a national conference that they travel to once a year, and the other half can stay and do some sort of a local conference. We have a large number of our team members going to the National Co-Response Conference next month, which is really sort of the conference of the year where co-responders from around the country get together and share latest research and latest processes. And so I think we have a real eye on professional development, and we really try to support our team in getting that in areas that they're interested in, but that also support the work that we're doing.
That's awesome. I am in education, both in my 2 jobs, and everyone in those jobs hate getting education. Like, it's annoying. It's kind of interrupt your daily work, and is you need to sit down. The only group that I talk and they would love to be trained more, they would love to be educated more, is police officers, firefighters, the CCAT. And that is really interesting that we should they love that, and we should provide that more, because they are going to improve their services and improve the whole city as whole. So I really encourage you to emphasize on development and education, and we are here to help and support in that.
To your point, Deputy Mayor, I think the one other thing that we've also learned is the education of our partners outside of CCAT, so the police and firefighters. And the CCAT individuals, having gained that experience and that knowledge firsthand and being able to do it repetitively, have learned skill sets that they're able to pass along. And so they've been going in and doing trainings, and will continue to do those trainings with both firefighters and police officers to help improve everybody across the board.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zahn.
Yes, thank you so much. You know, as you were talking, what I thought about was the right help at the right time saves lives. And really, that's, to me, is what CCAT's all about. By the way, love your logo. When I visited at the very beginning, I know you guys were still trying to triangulate to what exactly that logo was going to be. This makes me think about the fact that it really takes a whole village of integrating all the different teams and voices so that you're actually able to move forward together in a really effective way. And really thinking about doing this work differently, because I think as an industry, it's been segmented for many, many years. And so the CCAT is really about how do we think about the knowledge and cross-training and supporting each other as partners. So I was really glad to hear about NORCOM and how they have come alongside this as well. And then, you know, the diversions, I think when we first thought about the CCAT, it was very much about how we divert to, again, the right resources for whatever the situation and the person calls for. So I was really glad to hear that. So it feels like our hopes are working. And also, you know, I can't help but think about the fact that we've had the CARES program now for over 10 years. So you had the foundation for success and the de-escalation that our police department has done for a number of years. So I feel like those are really dovetail well together in terms of that. I really appreciate seeing the data about where the diversion is happening, and that we're adding opioid response to behavioral health and suicides, because we're definitely seeing the trends not going in the right direction around opioid and fentanyl. So the more we can get people out of opioid, that's really helpful. Really appreciate seeing the slide, I think page 12, where, because I was thinking about, well, what's our lessons learned and where's the continuous improvement? So I appreciate seeing that you've already been thinking about how to do more broad basic skills across with firefighters and police, adding more social workers. Love the fact that we have 30 students instead of 15. So I guess I have a couple of questions. To Councilmember Lee's point, I think about how many people are in our community that culturally and linguistically may have some different thoughts around mental health, behavioral health, being willing to call 911. And so how are we accounting for maybe some of the language and linguistic and cultural differences as part of this outreach is one of my questions. And I wondered about ACRS was here earlier with Michael Bayan. And, you know, they also provide mental health support, whether they can also be a partner in this work. And then my other question is, or actually I have two more. One is how this dovetails with, I think it's 811 or 988, whatever the number is for that. And then I know that this is not 24/7 right now, so that would be my question is, as we go into our biannual budget for 25, I want to make sure that if we're seeing more of a need, that we're adequately funding for what you need. And so do we need to fund for that last, 4 hours that we don't have CARES right now. And so those are a couple of my questions. Thanks.
I can jump in on parts 1 and 3, and I'll need help on 2 and 4, but thank you, Councilmember Zahn, for those questions. And earlier in the presentation, Natasha mentioned the opiate settlement. And so just let me go a little bit deeper on that to address your question about culturally and linguistically appropriate help. Currently, Bellevue's received about $530,000 in funding, and we have stable funding for about 10 years. And so when this opportunity presented itself, we formed a committee with several departments in the city and determined that we would do 3 things. One is we would add an opiate use disorder outreach social worker. That's a mouthful, but that's someone with these specific skills will be joining the team to do that work. It also establishes an outreach fund to provide sort of carry-on services to people that are experiencing challenges with opioids. And then it also establishes contracts with culturally and linguistically significant human service providers that are able to perhaps deal with people from other cultures that may have slightly different challenges. And so that was anticipated by the Bellevue team that made ultimately this recommendation to add the skills and the resources in this area.
Well, that's great.
Then to jump to the third part about, as Chief Shirley briefly mentioned, we met with Director Bill Hamilton from NORCOM today and talked about 988 co-location is happening in 2 regional centers, Valleycom, which is the south suburbs of King County, and then South Sound, which is a fairly large center farther south in Puget Sound. And it hasn't been happening for very long. So we're connected, we're observing, we're taking notes, we're paying very close attention to this. And just as a reminder, NORCOM is a conglomeration of up to 22 different agencies, police and fire. And so I think, like us, a lot of the agencies are waiting and watching to see how successful this program is with an eye towards the future.
And I think the last part was the budget piece. Yeah, currently, we don't have 24/7 coverage, but we're still early in the process. So we wouldn't be able to make a recommendation now whether we think we need more CCAT personnel at this time. But, we're watching, we're engaging, and monitoring, and to see kind of where we think we'll be sometime down the road.
Yeah, I would definitely say that, and hopefully my colleagues also agree that, this program is working. And so if you do find that we have those times where you're not getting the coverage, that we would want to make sure that the budget is sufficient for providing this full service, because it's working.
We appreciate that.
Councilmember Zahn, thank you also for mentioning our emblem, the logo that we have on this team. And if we can drive the PowerPoint back to that emblem so they can see it. I know, Mayor, you also gave me a hint about this. Captain Parrott, would you just share a quick story about the emblem?
I'd love
Quick
to.
story.
Thank you, Chief Hagan. The emblem was a collaboration between the MHPs and police officers, and it took them a little while to get through it, and had to go up of various chains of command, and
not the chiefs either.
not the chiefs, and then back down a few times. But ultimately, they selected this. You'll notice that the fire and police are on both sides, and then the stars above them are in the dueling colors, kind of that collaboration. And, this is a unique opportunity, both fire and police, to be able to work hand in hand together and have a good relationship. I know we jest a lot, but sometimes we may have differences of opinions, and this has been a great collaboration that we've been joined together. The Phoenix is below. It represents, if many of you may have watched Harry Potter, but the rebirth, and the mountain obviously representative of Mount Rainier, but something to look forward to as you engage in this journey of mental health. It gives you a point of perspective to look up to, and to be able to have that new birth and that new momentum forward, to be able to engage in life, and to, through the help of this unit, to be able to get them there.
Definitely shows we care. Thank you.
Councilmember Neuenhuis.
Thank you. Well, no one should be surprised by the results when you take one of the best police departments in the country and merge it with one of the best fire departments in the country. You're going to get good results. And I'm so glad that the CARES team is here too. You guys do incredible work in the community, and I see you out there all the time. So thank you for being here this evening. As my colleagues have mentioned, thank you so much for the great presentation, the great stories as well. And I hope you bring some more next time. Next time around, also would be interested in hearing what is needed to take this program to the next level. So this is only 8 months, as Chief Shirley mentioned, but certainly would like to have a better grasp next time we get an update. And I'm not sure when we're scheduled for that update, but would like to know what additional training, resources, budget, et cetera, would be needed to, again, to take this program to the next level. But incredible results thus far. Would like to dive into the numbers just a little bit. Again, it's 8 months, I know, and you might not be able to answer all these questions, but number one is of the 109 diversions, how many of them were related or interrelated in some way to drugs or to the opioid crisis right now? Is that a current data point that we track currently? And I'm looking at slide, 7?
Oh, it's this one.
Well, I said, I don't think we're together yet, David. I don't think we have that information tonight. We can see.
Yeah, we don't have that currently, but I can delve into that further and get that back to you.
Okay, that'd be great. I'd like to know that. And also, of the 109, is there any correlation between reducing crime rates and diverting the criminal charges, the arrests, and the incarceration? So take out the suicide calls, et cetera, if you
talking about
can.
this slide here?
Yeah, right here. Can we make any correlation between reducing crime rates and the diverting at this point?
Well, I'll say this, I don't think there's any direct correlation, but I will say, when you have someone and you're diverting them from the system,
Yeah.
right? But not just diverting them, but diverting them in a path of getting help for some of the issues that they are having.
Right.
Right, that are causing them to have to deal with us, if you will. I do think you're making your community safer, right? As opposed to them not getting the help, them not getting triaged into case management and getting all the things they need. If that's not the case, then they're out there on their own doing the things that is drawing attention to them and causing issues. And they can become victims of crimes as well. Become victims of crimes, and then some people actually commit crimes when they're in crisis, right? And that impacts our entire community. So diverting them and getting them the help they need, like the stories they just told, that's a win-win for our community. And to me, that touches right up against a safe community and public safety.
Yeah. And then hearing the story about the individual, it took 3 touches basically to get them, to the hospital or involuntary. Got me thinking about how many other individuals did we have to touch multiple times before they were able to get the help that they needed? Is that indicative of the usual contact, or is it sometimes one-off? I'm just trying to get a sense of how many repeat touches per individual we're seeing right now.
While we don't have that data in front of us to provide with you, that was one of the things of the 3,500 calls I think that they went to. There were multiple ones where it was repeat, where
Right.
they went back and forth. And, as many of us know, people in behavioral health issues aren't ready culturally or otherwise ready to accept help today or tomorrow or maybe a month down or a year down the road. But as we continue to provide these services, then we're able to help them. But that's something we can look into and get you a better answer for. but I
Yeah,
don't
it'd
have
be
that in
great if
front
we
of me.
can start tracking some of these metrics a little bit more closely too. I think it's interesting data as well as how we might want to, lift this program even further as well as we go down that path, as my colleagues have said. So, and I full-heartedly agree. Go ahead, Chief
If I
Shirley.
can add, but I
Yeah.
can tell you, a key component of that and the way CCAT is structured, right? We have the same people doing the work.
Yep.
Reaching out to them every day, and it takes time. But then you build relationships, there's credibility, there's trust, and then at some point, when they're ready, they're willing to go. Just like Natasha's story, right? About the gentleman who ultimately came back and was expressing himself to the CCAT members. So it's all about building trust, credibility, showing level of patience, respect, and no one size fits all. It just takes time.
And I think we can also see some of that in the CARES data, which we could also bring you in the future or get to you. As we know, a case is open an average of 100 days with an average of an hour per week that we spend with people. And that is because it takes time to build rapport. And people also don't just have one crisis. They have many things going on in their lives. And sometimes the crisis that brings us to them is the crisis that day, but there's other underlying things that are going on that take longer to resolve. So I think,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, thank you for this great presentation. I heard from all my colleagues that we are looking for how we might support you. So as we go through the budget process, as we go to DC, as we go and meet with our state Senate and representatives, if there are things we can advocate for, please let Genesee and us know so that we can all be on your team. And then also request for more data next time. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, the last thing I want to say is our June 4th meeting has been canceled. So the next meeting is June 11th. We're canceling it because the deputy mayor and I are going to be gone. And so as long as we have a quorum on June 11th, because we will be missing our 3 council members who we excused earlier tonight, we will have our next meeting on June 11th. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.